Welcome back to the Warrior Servant Leader podcast. Today we have just a really neat guy. Love him to death. He's a writer, a speaker, a provocateur of the spirit, exploring the hidden chambers of human transformation. And he writes and talks with questions to awaken his audience. So, welcome, Robert Hamburger, and everybody that knows Robert, we just call him Hamburger, and he even has his own Substack page, Hamburger Stan. Even you got music and a video to it now too. I think, don't you? Or you're working on. Camille did a little video for you with the Hamburger Stand. I thought was pretty cool. So,
Right.
welcome to the show, Hamburger. Glad to have you here. We're both Coloradans. Hamburger, you're up north. I affectionately call you my Walden Pond guy, and I'm further south. But it's great to have you here, and I just want to jump right in. You once wrote on Substack that living through life's train wrecks forges wisdom, and that true friendship and love asks for the courage to hold up the mirror even when looking away would be easier. And I'm kind of calling this an open mic day. I don't have a script with a bunch of questions like I normally do. I just want to get into, can you tell us about some of your train wrecks? Because I know you've had, quite the life, and how you got back on the rails.
Well, I think we've all had train wrecks, and everybody's life is full of them. But I had a big one at the age of 7 when my father died.
Mm.
And it was a probable suicide. I wasn't told as much, but I knew. And I've actually confirmed that the 7-year-old knew. Uh, and that to me was like a bomb going off that destroyed my life. I had no desire to continue on this planet without a father.
Hmm.
And yet I had to. And at some point, I'm going to say 3 months. I have no recollection at this point. Uh, I was all but comatosely alive. I was just existing, trudging through school. Uh, I had no friends. I figured my friends knew what happened, and I had as much shame as I did grief.
Wow.
And that's nothing a 7-year-old should have to deal with, but that I had to deal with it. It changed me. I mean, I knew the night he died, or I found out he died. I'd never be normal again. Uh, and I think about 3 months, the resilient little flame inside uh, came to know, hey, if I'm going to be stuck here on this planet without him and in this situation, I better figure out how to be happy one day. It was
Se-
just that.
7 years old.
At that point, let's say I
Wow.
was 7.5.
Wow.
But you know what? If I'm stuck here, I might as well figure out how to be happy. Those are the best words I can recollect now, some 60 years later. But I had that knowing. I mean, I joke with my local friends who know my history. I say I became a philosopher at 7 years old.
Wow. So, what's Paul Harvey? What's the rest of the story? How'd you get to where you're at today?
Uh, my mother had the wisdom to park me in therapy. Every Wednesday at 4 o'clock, I'd go to this uh, strange little office, and I'd sit with this man who, in retrospect, was as kind and loving as could be. But I told him to his face, and I told my mother, I'm not talking to him about anything. And for the first many months, I would leave the chair across from his desk and go to like his little living room setup, and I'd turn the swivel chair to the wall, and I'd place my feet on the wall as to be the most defiant little dude I could. And I would let an hour pass without talking to him. He'd ask me a question every 10 minutes. And I think for the first several months, I never answered him. And then at some point, maybe I answered him in a word or two. And it must have been a year and a half or two when I finally took up the man on an invitation to play cards. You know, if I'm going to have to spend an hour, I might as well beat this guy at gin rummy and go fish. And slowly but surely, I began to talk to him about but I did not become intimate or vulnerable with him. I didn't share what I knew, suspected, how I felt. It was probably small talk about the other kids in school or whatever else was, on my mind. But I never really opened up to him until maybe 15. When I was in high school, and then I would talk to him as a friend, but I still never dared uh, venturing into the feeling realm with him. So I applaud my mother for parking me there.
For that long. I mean, that her persistence and stubborn focus was probably every bit as intense as your stubborn focus to not participate.
Right. So
And has that gone? Has that focus and um, resoluteness evolved in a positive way for you since then? Though, I mean,
oh, yes, it has. Uh, my friends, strangers, I can go as deep as they can go, as quickly as they can go. Uh, I've made peace with the demons inside, and I can hold space more readily for other people's demons. Other people's stuff does not scare me.
okay. So you call you're a philosopher, and I would say an intellectual person. And how about on a theological level? Because all those things I think in life all get intertwined and sometimes muddied up and whatnot. And a lot of our audience are people of faith and really have some and have shared their stories. But from and I understand, and you never have shared with me the details of it, but I know nature's a huge part of your life. I love your pictures you send out of the moose and the elk and your property up there in the mountain area. You once mentioned to me about a really good experience. I think with a Native American medicine man.
Well,
What's that? How's that impacted your life?
well, let me back up and answer your first question, the theological one.
Okay.
Uh, I was raised Jewish and very reform, not very, just very reformed Jew. Very, we didn't go to synagogue often, only the major holidays.
Okay.
But I remember sitting there saying, I didn't buy the message. I My belief was, and let's just say 7 years old, a teenager, that if there was a God, I would still have a father.
Hmm.
This glorious thing that the rabbi is talking about is not true. And I had evidence. You know, God would not have allowed this to happen had there been legitimacy to the concept.
Okay.
So,
totally natural for a 7-year-old, and even adults have the same perspective.
right.
So what happened? I mean, how did you
Uh,
grow in that arena?
I don't remember, but with the wisdom of a philosopher, I I I had to say there was something, even if I didn't believe the Jewish version of it or the other versions I had heard of it. Uh, there had to be something.
Hmm.
You know, I mean, my one question from being a young boy is how did human life on a place called Earth come to exist? Uh, and no one could answer the question I was the way. I mean, I remember asking my father that question before he passed. I remember asking my mother that question through the rest of my school years. It never got answered adequately. But that doesn't mean that there isn't something. It just meant there was no answer.
Yeah. No, I get it, and that's why I think in all faiths, regardless, is there are mysteries that the human mind in our current conditions cannot answer, and you find out the answer in life after death if you even believe in that. So, it's interesting how we struggle with the biggest question in our lives is always why.
Right.
I'm adopted, and I eventually, when I was almost 40 years old, got to meet my birth mother, and I was, born in another country, and nobody could ever answer for me two questions: why was I, left in an orphanage when I was 3 days old? Why didn't my mother keep me? Type deal, and as an adult going to the doctor and they go, oh, we're going to get your medical history, and I would say, well, save all those questions. I don't know.
Right.
My family's medical history. I'm adopted, and we get frustrated, I think, with not having the answers to why, and then it forces us to choose a path of how we're going to deal with that unknown. So, for some people, it's they become agnostic or whatever when it comes to the theological, or they just shove it in the back of their mind and go, "I'm never going to know why, so I'm just going to give up and not really look for or explore for evidence that would support whatever my fundamental belief is."
Right.
So, and I think in our previous discussions, a lot of that you find in nature and why you live where you live is you see a lot of the evidence of creation, and you may not still know how or why, but you appreciate. Would that be a good word? The evidence of how beautiful creation is.
Those aren't my words, and yes,
All
uh,
right.
I was in therapy until I was 18. Then I went to University of Michigan, and I struggled not to be kicked out of school. Once I was on my own, I didn't have all the. I wasn't prepared to go out into life. Uh, so after college, I put myself back into therapy for 3, 4 years, and it wasn't until college until I started making friends halfway easily and regularly. And then, in the 20s, I was simply going through the motions of getting jobs to support myself. I was
Mhm.
still a lost soul.
So, are you
So
still a
then,
lost soul? We're
I still there's still more to figure out. Uh, yeah, I'd say in 30. By the time I was 30, I started I started fitting in. You know, I no one knew how these gears were spinning inside, but I was able to start fitting in and having, creating a life that looked normal on the outside. I got married, had two stepsons. I divorced when I was 39, and that's when I got the Thoreau bug. That's when I got the Walden Pond bug. And it was uh, part of it was just simple adventure, Pat. And yet part of it was um, I don't like this life that everyone is playing. Machines waking us up, traffic lights telling us when we can come and go. I want to go to Walden Pond for myself. And that's when I divorced at 39, and that's when I moved to southwestern Colorado and bought a house at 9,000 feet, and they didn't even plow the roads there in the winter because there was too much wind. And it was both a adventure and an experiment, and I called it a self-prescribed prescription. If this soul only knew chaos and tumult and has still carried it and may carry I'll carry it the rest of my life. It diminishes and diminishes. But what it was an experiment. What happens to this soul if I surround it with peace and tranquility? If we're connected to all things and I'm most immediately connected to nature and peace, what's going to happen to me?
yeah. So what happened, or
Uh
what is happening? It's a
it
it.
became a way of life. It became a way of life. I let technology pass me by to a good degree. And I had a foot in both worlds, both the Thoreau world and the world that most of us are in. I started working, managing people's money in the commodity markets via the internet in the middle of a Thoreau-like setting.
Oh wow. So where's the medicine man come in?
I got sick in 2002. My temperature would not be above 97. Sometimes it was in the 96s. And as far as the human body goes, my human body, it felt like I had a fever every day. It was a reverse fever, but I mean, I had the chills, I had the sweats, I was tired and wiped out, and I had a $2,000 blood panel done in 2002. That might be a normal price today, but uh, I kept going back to the city and I'd see specialists, and no one found anything wrong with me. So I went to I went down to the Navajo Nation, Shiprock, New Mexico. I was introduced to a Navajo medicine man, and I go down with my friend, actually two friends, pull up at his house, and his house is just a very beyond modest existence. And he was underneath his car, repairing his car, like what was it? Dan Millman, Way of the Spiritual Warrior.
Mm-hmm.
He was underneath his car, repairing his car, and I'm like, oh my goodness, this this just does not add up. Anyway, we went into uh, his 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 workplace, which was just four walls and a dirt floor, no windows. And I tell him my story, and he says, "You've got something stuck down by your appendix." And he takes a bamboo shoot about 2 feet long and starts puts it up against my back and starts sucking and sucking and sucking. And then he runs outside and is just hacking away for 5 minutes. And Pat, I'm like, this is like Hollywood. This this is like Hollywood. Anyway, what a waste of money. The next day I was better.
Wow. Normal temperature.
The next day I got up into the high 97s. What's normal? 98.6.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was at 98.6 within a few days. First time in it was probably about 8-9 months.
Wow.
But via further conversation with him and befriending, I learned the Navajo theology. And it was the first time that my 7, 8-year-old, 9-year-old skeptic was actually proven right. And there's no right or wrong. But I remember his discussion of religion was religion tries to explain away the mystery. They have stories, they have reasons, they have explanations. And he said, my people don't know there's no explanation. We're here on earth. We have these lives. We have these ticking hearts, and there's no explanation. How about having profound reverence for the mystery? My people would, leave their tents 600 years ago and bow to the sun in the east, knowing there's no reason it comes up, but it does. And knowing the deepest reverence is for what can't be explained. And, that was music to my 7-year-old's ears.
Mm-hmm.
And since then, I have become religious in a very Navajo-like way. That one sentence gave me context, like, that explains everything, even though it explained nothing.
That's great story, and I think that revelation comes to a lot of people that are in chaos, and in the Christian arena, it's peace beyond understanding. I don't know why I have this peace about whatever that chaos I'm going through or have gone through, but peace beyond understanding that's enough for you to enjoy life and live life to the fullest. So
Right.
That's a great. I've always wondered when because I've heard you at Metal Man and some other brief conversations we've had, that you've mentioned the Medicine Man. So I'm glad I got to and to share it with our audience, because there are people out there that every day are struggling with kind of the three fundamental needs every one of us has. We want safety, we want security, we want control, we want prosperity in our lives, and sometimes there's just so much noise out there that we lose focus. So it's great. We can't all live on Walden Pond, but I think it's awesome for you to share that and to reassure people that there, even in the worst of tragedies, there's always hope. And so, great story. Yeah. Now, I understand you're working on a fiction book.
Yes.
How is kind of a lot of this philosophy and worldview in your fiction? Is it? Tell us about the book. And
Uh,
when you
the
hope to get it out?
the book is I've entitled it The Alchemist's Cabin, and I need to do one more heavy edit rewrite before I dare take it back to an agent or publisher.
Yeah.
And depending on my wherewithal as to how enthusiastically I approach it, I'm a couple months out.
Awesome. And is it historical fiction? I mean,
It's
is it kind of your life but through the eyes of a fictional character, or give us a little teaser?
so when I first wrote the book, I decided the story came out with 2 degrees of separation. I made my main character a woman, and I put her into the Canadian Rockies rather than the Colorado Rockies. That way, I wasn't telling a story. That way, I wasn't repeating the story I've come all too well to know, my own.
Yeah,
But I was able to tell a story projecting it onto another.
that's awesome.
And I got it back from the first editor, and the feedback was, "You've done no character development. You've told a great story, no ifs, ands, or buts. But what's driving the protagonist? What's eating at her soul? What makes her tick? What wakes her up?"
Yeah.
And then I didn't want to do it, but I did it. I changed around the story and started bringing in flashbacks and current day discussions about her mother taking her life.
Awesome.
I didn't. I can tell my story to you readily. I'll tell your story to your audience. I'll tell my story to a friend or a woman I'm dating. But I didn't want to go public per se in book form with my story. But the editor basically said I had to, or it was just you know, a nice, pretty story about somebody moving to the mountains.
Okay.
So I went there, Pat, and uh, I told stories about the night I found out. Uh, I put I put my character in the same therapist's office as I used to go to. I didn't make her quite as rebellious as I was. And
Oh man.
I told the story about the time she returned to the cemetery as an adult, which were their own mystical experiences. And then I embellished her life with more of the life I wish I had. So, I made it a heartwarming tale, and my own life is a heartwarming tale, but I really laid it on her.
Yeah. We so I've written 2 books, and both of them I did not intend to write as a cathartic, you know, thing for me. But in the end, I felt kind of a burden release, having put words to paper and then shared it. Has that been your experience, or how has writing this book been a good or bad or indifferent impact on your life?
Uh, I can't say it has been yet.
Okay.
Part for the most part, it's just getting a story out I knew to tell. But like I've said, I've told it. My childhood story is in my own mind and heart is just old news. It's it's brought me gifts and wisdoms and knowings I wouldn't have had I had a, a far more pleasant childhood. But getting that on paper, when you asked the question, the other answer was this last round of edits. You're going to find out the answer to Pat's question.
Well, that for the writers out there, I mean, the people that are listening, or even we're both pretty involved in writing on Substack, is one of the things I was challenged with first time I talked to a guy that was an indie publisher. He goes, "Why are you writing a book?" And I said, "Well, just because I got a story to tell." He goes, "That's not a why." He goes, "You know, if you identify why you're writing it, then that will inspire you to keep writing when you hit the stone wall where you just
Right.
don't know what to say or whatever." So, you know, and I'm not putting you on the spot, but I am because we're friends. I can do it,
Yep.
and you can always hit the delete button. Why did you want to write the book in the first place? And
Uh,
for people out there that are even thinking about writing a book, this might help them, you know, make make that same commitment.
there's a an quiet underlying knowing that with this strange, bizarre, horrific, extraordinary life I lived, uh, to share my lessons. And I don't think I have any lessons that are any more significant than anyone else who has already written something.
Mm-hmm.
But put out there your unique slant on things. Put out there, the fact that you've gone from a kid who literally, actually, thought about taking his own life, not wanting to continue without a father, to someone who is vibrant, healthy, happy, and has learned to help others. You know,
Yeah.
I work with people as clients. I'm always counseling my friends. Take take whatever this is, this unique gift. I still can't put it into words. For my Substack, provocateur of spirit, uh,
Yeah.
was is the best I can explain it, and put it in writing, and I put it in a heartwarming story, and just get it out there.
Yep. That's
Yeah.
awesome. It reminds me of the 15-year-old, and I'm going to wrap it up here. But what you just said, you used the word unique a couple times. And just last month, a 15-year-old, he died in 2006, age 15, of leukemia. He was canonized in the Catholic Church. And this St. Carlo Acutis is from Milan, Italy. And this struck me, and what you just shared, I think, is one sentence that summarizes what you just shared. He said, "We are all born unique. Sadly, many of us die as a photocopy." And we don't. You're sharing your story is it's your unique life, but we all have unique lives, and we don't want to die as a photocopy of being somebody else. Remember back in the days when Michael Jordan was famous in Nike commercials, and it was "Be like Mike," and I think that gets in the psyche of people to be like somebody or something else, as opposed to embracing and knowing your uniqueness and then sharing that with the world. So I applaud you for our friendship. Your insights, your philosophies are just awesome, and I'm so glad you could jump on the show with us today. How can people reach out to you if they want to follow you on Substack? If they want to know more about your insights. How can they reach out to you?
Uh, just my web address actually directs to Substack. It's Hamburger Stand, just like the food, HamburgerStand, two S's. Which actually, my stepfather actually always encouraged me to open a restaurant, calling it Hamburger Stand. And as I never went into the restaurant business when the internet was invented, I said, There's my avenue for this name.
So it's hamburgerstand.com or
Hamburgerstand.com, right.
okay.
And that would put somebody right into Substack.
Awesome. Well, I know you will do it, but I'm gonna put you on Front Street when this thing does get published. Let me know. You're
Okay.
going to be one. I'm going to get a copy. You have to sign it for me, and two, I want to have you back on the show and we'll talk about the book in detail.
Yeah.
And
I'll leave with you with a parting thought, because I
okay.
just wrote this to someone yesterday via email. It's a quote that I've lived my life by. And I was 13 years old watching the TV show Fantasy Island,
Yeah,
Rourke and the plane coming in.
yeah, the plane.
On one show, Mr. Rourke said, "When your dreams become reality, even the heavens will tremble." And I ran out of the family room to the kitchen, got a piece of paper, and wrote it down because I never wanted to forget it.
I'm writing this down. When your dreams become reality, even the heavens will tremble.
Right.
Wow. All right. And
I wish there was was a more profound philosopher than Mr. Rourke, but that's my quote of this lifetime.
and you know what? You just gave me the title to this episode. This is how we're going to share this. The title of
Excellent.
this episode: When your dreams become reality, even the heavens will tremble. Awesome. Now I'm going to remember that one. That's going to go into my book of quotes. All right, Hamburger, great to have you, folks. As you're listening, man, if this has touched you, impacted you, you know somebody that needs to hear the same message, by all means, please share the podcast with them. Follow us at thewarriorservantleader.com or contact me at at Pat Welsh JD on LinkedIn. And as I always try to close every episode, remember, live the warrior servant leader mindset by doing the right things at the right time, the right way, and for the right reasons. Love you all, and see you next Tuesday.
Oh.